I had a quick look on Google the other day and it told me that there are 2,755 billionaires in the world. Now I reckon about 10% or 275 of those might want something like an Aston Martin Valkyrie. So far, Aston has announced 150 coupés and another 40 AMR Pro versions of its Valkyrie. Now though, there is this, the Aston Martin Valkyrie Spider, to be produced in a limited run of 85. Now the main difference obviously with the Spider is around here with the roof, which we will get to in a bit. I'll show you the roof mechanism and how it looks, because it does actually change the look of this car quite a bit, I think. We'll also have a look at the interior, because this is the first time I've seen a sort of fully complete interior in a Valkyrie. But some of the facts and figures first. Obviously these are pretty similar, if not identical, to the coupe, but that doesn't make them any less extraordinary. So, power. In the back here, we've still got the naturally aspirated V12 that will rev to 11,000 RPM and should sound just incredible. The induction noise through that roof scoop should be amazing with the roof off. Can't wait to hear that. It's going to produce 1,000 brake horsepower, and then obviously it's a hybrid system, so that takes up to 1,139 brake horsepower overall and 664 pounds-foot of torque. Aerodynamics, so that's another big thing obviously with this car. And thankfully, because a lot of the downforce is actually created underneath the car, so obviously we've got the big splitter at the front there, we've got these new openings here over the wishbones here that you can see, and that's something that's changed over time with the Valkyrie, but they've vented it up there, and then it runs down here all the way to the back where you've got the enormous Venturi tunnels, and this is how it generates most of its downforce, which they've been saying is over 1,400 kilos at 149 miles an hour. Now obviously the weight of this we don't know exactly, but we're probably thinking around about 1,100 kilos. They're saying that the weight difference between this and the coupe is negligible. I imagine that no weight difference is actually negligible to somebody like Adrian Newey, but negligible is what we have got. Incidentally, something I saw the other day which I thought was quite interesting is the code name for this car internally was Nebula, which is a sort of collaboration between Newey, NE, Bulls for Red Bull Advanced Technologies, and then A for Aston Martin, Nebula. There we are. Thought that was quite interesting. Anyway, back to top speed on this, which, well, with the roof on, 217 miles an hour, or 350 kilometers an hour. With the roof off, still 205 miles an hour. And that makes this the fastest drop-top Aston Martin ever. Now, one of the big things about this is obviously the doors. I'll catch under here and lift them up. Because on the coupe, obviously you had gull-wing doors, but if you're going to take the roof off, you can't do that with this. So, a whole new front hinge on this, and you get dihedral doors instead. Right, time to get in, I think. While I'm getting in, one other thing I thought I should mention is that Aston says it hasn't had to strengthen the carbon tub for the Spider. It's merely modified it to take into account the different doors, which perhaps explains that negligible weight gain. Anyway, looks like I'm in now. Even static like this, it is an extraordinary experience sitting in a Valkyrie. For a start, you've obviously got this huge sort of high sill to climb over, which seems sort of, I don't know, it seems even more extraordinary somehow in the Spider. And then you sit down here. Obviously the seat is basically, it's part of the car, it's attached to the car, it doesn't move at all. You've got an adjustable pedal box, an adjustable steering column to make it fit. It's pretty tight for somebody as tall as me. I'm getting on for 6'5" and couldn't really be any taller and still fit. But you've obviously got your feet canted over towards the centre of the car, and with two of you in here, well, there certainly wouldn't be an awful lot of wiggle room. The actual seating position itself is also a little bit alien, but very cool. I love this feeling of the sort of reclining in the bathtub with your feet on the taps, you know, sort of accelerate with the cold tap and brake with the hot tap. But overall,
It is sparse, obviously, in here, minimal, because they're trying to save weight. So it makes sense. You've got a USB port down there, then parking, brake, hazards, a couple of other buttons. Most of it is on the steering wheel. And then we've got 4 screens, so one on the steering wheel, another one for auxiliary information, I think up there, and then these 2 screens here, which are for the views from the rear-facing cameras, because obviously we haven't got mirrors on this. I'm not entirely sure about the placement of that one. It seems to be quite sort of in your vision, given that you've got such a small sort of windscreen to look out of, but it's one of those things, when you're actually driving, maybe you just look beyond it anyway and don't get distracted by it. Something else to mention is that, well, I've sat in a coupe and it is pretty claustrophobic. And I think one of the big selling points for this could be that if you sat in that and just didn't like the feeling of being hemmed in, obviously without the roof, that goes away. Obviously Aston Martin says the reason you'd want this is because it's more intense, more emotional, but to be honest, how much more emotion and intensity do you really need over what the coupe is already giving you? Obviously this is more like F1 as well, because they don't have roofs either and all those sorts of things, but anyway, there we go. Talking of roofs, shall we have a look at it?
In case you're wondering, there is nowhere to stow the roof in the Spider, so you'll have to pop it in a DBX and have someone try to keep up, if it looks like rain. So there we are, as you've just seen, that is quite a piece of theatre, the way it all unfolds, and we'll look at it again in a second. But just for a moment, the looks of this overall, with the roof in place, it looks, well, to all intents and purposes, identical to the coupe, which is, well, then a win-win, because when you take it off, it reminds me a bit of a sort of 1969, 1970 Ferrari 512S. And I always thought that was really, really cool. I also love the fact that this is transparent here, so you look down in and you get the sense of it being like a fighter jet cockpit, which sounds like a sort of, you know, marketing speak, but it genuinely does, but just with this sort of really tight packaging round there. And then there is obviously the theatre of opening it up. So door first, and then lean in here, pull the leather strap, and the butterfly wings of it go up like that. It's just cool. And then fold it back down again. But what do you guys think? Should there be a Spider version of something so overtly performance orientated as the Valkyrie? I'm always slightly on the fence about it, because I can almost feel Adrian Newey grinding his teeth in his office at the thought of having to take any incremental performance out of the Valkyrie. But given that it's got over 1,400 kilos of downforce, are we going to even notice that from behind the wheel? And then there are things like the Boxster Spider, which I love and I would have in a heartbeat over the Cayman GT4, because it just adds more to the experience. I don't know. I can see it going either way. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we're going for 1 million subscribers just as soon as possible, and you don't want to miss when we get to finally drive a Valkyrie.